All right. Let me get the slides uploaded here and all that and get the show over with, because I'll be honest with y'all, I did not enjoy watching that game at all. And it was everything I could do not to turn it off. I was legitimately pissed off that entire time. I I know it's just one game, and but the team's been doing good despite all the injuries, blah 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 blah. Yeah, all those things are true, but this was just one of those nights where I hate to say this, but I feel like tonight we saw the team that we really have. I know no Jordo, no Slavin, no Kokaniemi, which a lot of people would say that that's an upside, but if you think Mark Jankowski is better than Jesperi Kokaniemi, you're dead wrong about that. And that's not even me being a KK fan. I'm just telling you objectively, he's not a better player. Jankowski is not better than Kokaniemi. Not by a long shot. This was a winnable game, and they just pissed it away. It was like I said in Landfall Hour earlier today. In the event that, let me get this uploaded first. This was not a game Carolina would lose because the Rangers played collectively well as a unit. Carolina would lose if they pissed this game away. Oh, don't worry, Slumped. I'm going to get to that. All right. Here we go. Okay. All right. So this one right here went exactly about how you'd expect it when you look at the numbers. Rangers win 4-2. Carolina had a very, very marginal edge in expected goals. Rangers had 3 goals, 5-on-5. Carolina only had 1. 5-on-5 goals. We already talked about that. Expected goals, 5-on-5. Rangers 1.72 to 2.04 for the Canes, but they still managed to score 3. Penalty minutes, Rangers had 10. Carolina had 5. They were 1 for 4 on the power play. Carolina was, which I know that's an upgrade over what you normally have, because that's 25% compared to them usually sitting at a season average of 12 to 14% right now. It's still unacceptable. I'm really, really tired of people acting like that this is not an issue. And more so, I'm tired of people exclusively blaming the players for this. At this point, the list of players you have on the power play that you have had on the power play since Rod started coaching the team, you have 2. Aho and Svechnikov. That is it. There is nobody else on this team that was here that is still on the power play other than those 2. That is it. I don't know what needs to be done to solve the power play issue. You can maybe put Nikishin out there and nothing changes. But something needs to be done differently with it, because this team will not go far if they don't get it fixed. Like, I'm already getting 21-22 flashbacks right now. Carolina should have went to the Eastern Conference Finals that season, but they couldn't win a game on the road because they were too matchup dependent, and they couldn't score on a power play. Otherwise, Boston is out in 5, and the Rangers are out in 6, and Carolina's going on to face Tampa in the conference finals. I'm done with pretending that that's not a problem. Something needs to be done differently. I don't know if that's hire a power play coach. I don't know what that is. Just something is not right with that. But I'm tired of pretending that I never pretended that it was entirely on the players, but there's no way at this point it's entirely on the players. They should have accidentally had 20% on average over the course of the entire time. And I don't know exactly what that number is over the course of the last 7 years, but I'm going to figure it out, because I want to really, really, really take a very strong look at that. I don't know if they need to outsource it in some way or what, but blaming the players that's not going to fly anymore. 8 seasons straight now, you have 2 players left on the power play that were there before. Aho and Svechnikov. As I said, that is it. Shot attempts 52 to 41 for Carolina, so they didn't even have the high amount of volume higher amount of volume and shots that they normally do. Like if you're looking at shot attempts in an isolation, a difference of 11 is not much, especially when you're talking about a team that you basically have to beat into submission to get a net positive in offense. The Rangers blocked 20 of those 52 shot attempts. Carolina blocked 10 of the Rangers' 41 attempts. Faceoffs continue to be a problem. 45.9 to 54.1. Carolina on the wrong end of that as well. All right. So looking at the period-by-period breakdown, the first period, the Canes were atrocious. And about halfway through the second period was when they finally started realizing, oh, wait, we might want to start playing now. The only goal scored in the first period was by Noah Laba, and it was assisted by Radish and Robertson. Laba was given enough time to make a sandwich. The defensive breakdown in front of him in front of Freddie was inexcusable, but that's one of the three that he let in tonight. About all three of them, you could say you need a save from your goaltender. That one in particular, I put more on the team in front of him. But he was given so much time and space. He picked his corner. It was easy for him. Carolina even got outshot in that period as far as total shot attempts. 9-3 shots on goal favors Carolina. Expected goals were dead even. But, of course, Carolina has to put up 1.5 to 1.8 expected goals for one goal because that's just how they do things. Second period, shot attempts. Carolina started playing better in this period. It took them until about the 10-minute mark before they really started taking over the game. But at no point did I ever believe that they were going to win this game. The entire time I was like, no. And even if they did win, I kind of didn't want them to because they didn't deserve to win tonight. They played like shit. Just straight up. They sucked. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The Canes were garbage tonight. This game, with what happened in Buffalo, I kind of expected that. Like I said, scheduled loss. End of a road trip. Flu's going through the locker room. And they had just come back from another long trip and only got, 2 games at home before they were back on the road again. So that one, not too much. Tonight was even more pathetic, if you ask me, because they didn't have any excuses tonight. Struggling team comes into your barn and you can't put up a better performance than that? No, fuck that. Expected goals, Carolina did limit the Rangers' chances a little bit better this time. Only allowed 0.72 expected goals against and had 1.714. Both teams scored in this period. Panarin from Fox and Miller and Gostisbehere from Aho and Ehlers on the power play, just because they scored one power play goal tonight, which was very well executed. It was a good cycle, and Jarvis did a great job battling to get to the front of the net to set up that screen. That doesn't change, that doesn't absolve them of all the power play issues. The power play is going to be the death of this team in the postseason. This has got to stop. I don't know what it takes, but that has to change. Then in the third period, Carolina made a pretty aggressive push again to try and win this one. 27 shot attempts limited the Rangers to only 11 shot attempts and 4 shots on goal. 11 of Carolina's shot attempts were on goal. 1.71 to 1.13 for expected goals. The expected goals are a little inflated for the Rangers there because of the empty netter. Trocheck from Panarin and Zibanejad, Jarvis from Gostisbehere and Aho. That Jarvis shot was pretty sick, to be honest. And then Will Cooley scored the unassisted goal after Zibanejad ran Ehlers over, and he was able to throw it from Carolina's blue line all the way to the other end and put it in the net. And that was that. So, not as in-depth as I normally break down the numbers tonight because I don't feel like that there's much you can really talk about from a directly scientific standpoint with how this game went. I think it's more of this team has some things it needs to figure out. Now, it's not entirely indicative of what things are like all the time. You don't have Jordo, you don't have KK, you don't have Slavin right now. So those are factors because that's 2 big defensive pieces that you're talking about with Jordo and Slavin. And one of the most physical things, or one of the most physical players you have is Jesperi Kotkaniemi. And that would have been useful tonight to have him in there to nullify guys like Miller and Trocheck. And when he's on the forecheck, he can, put some war of attrition type of stuff against guys like Fox. So having him out didn't help. But there were 3 times where either the defense needed to be better or Freddie needed to make a timely save, or both, you could say. That was definitely a win as a team, lose as a team thing. But honestly, I'm just pissed off at all of them. I don't think anybody played particularly well tonight. Nobody. You know, like the one guy I thought played his role relatively well was Nikishin. That was it. I thought Nikishin was fine, considering he's not playing as much of a role as I personally expected him to be playing by now. Reasons withstanding, whether I agree with them or not. For someone who's pulling fewer minutes at this point than I thought he would be, he was fine. He threw some hits. He had a really good scoring chance. There were a couple of times he jumped up on the rush and joined the play, generated some offense. Miller was not terrible, but like I've definitely seen better games out of him since he's been in Carolina. Aho was okay. He could have been better. Maybe the flu's still bugging him. I don't know. Jarvis was pretty solid, and I'm not just saying that because he scored and not because I was forced to watch him the entire game. And that's another thing I want to get to. So this is not the first time that they've done this showcase game thing. There was one time back in 2018, shortly after Dundon bought the team, that they tried this with Aho. And it was horrendous. It was actually worse than tonight. And I understand if you want to showcase a player, okay, maybe you talk about them more during the intermission than normal. Talk about them more. Talk about them more during the intermission. Talk about them more in between whistles. Whatever, that's fine. But having the camera on them all the time and then the shoddy ass camera work that was going, it was really stupid when he was on the power play because he's in the frame any damn way. You can see him the entire time. So I don't. I didn't like that at all. I thought that was dumb. About the only laugh I had tonight was seeing that Hannah and Shane were dressed like they were going to rob a bank in 1920s Chicago with the suits they were wearing. They looked like Bonnie and Clyde. That's about the only humor I had from tonight. The rest of this game just seriously pissed me off. That I've not been this pissed off at them since... Hell, I don't even want to say the playoffs because at the end of the day, I was blaming Rod more for that than anybody because of him putting Morrow in 2 games in a row. But I want to say the Utah game was the last time I was this mad, when they had 10 minutes of power play time at the end and they just totally just absolutely sucked. They were pathetic tonight. This is one of those games where it's like you can go back and look at the video if you want to and dissect it if you're the coaching staff, but at the end of the day, they just need to be told, you guys were fucking garbage tonight. Don't play like that next time. I don't know if any of them need to be eating any turkey tomorrow because they looked asleep enough tonight. I don't think they need anything else to make them tired. And I see all this stuff going on over here in the comments. I'm not getting involved in that. You guys can have at it. I'm not in the mood. I'm really not. Grayson says, I don't think we might make the playoffs if this happens. I'm not worried about that yet, but the reality of the situation is when you look at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, like that's literally all it would take because the standings are so tight. I think it was a 5-point difference between Carolina and the Rangers, and now it's only 3. Yeah, you needed to win this game tonight. You really did. But Reese, what's up, buddy? Frustrating game today. I'm eyeing the trade market pretty closely the next few weeks, months. Yeah. Slump says Seth Jarvis cam was the worst idea I've ever seen. Yeah, that was stupid. I'm sorry, but it was. I mean, one of the weirdo parasocials was like, I'm enjoying it. Well, be safe, though. I know what that means. I'm not stupid. I don't want to know what their other hand was doing while they were typing that. Reese also says Slavin carried the defense more than I would ever think. PK is 21st in the league without him right now. Crazy. That's not too irregular, though, because, like, pretend that Pretend that it's the Dallas Stars without Essa Lindell or the Minnesota Wild without Jonas Brodin. Numerous other examples of that. The Panthers without Gus Forsling, they would probably see a dip as well, because Carolina's penalty kill typically hangs out at 85 to 90%. And you're losing 6% of that penalty kill effectiveness roughly without Slavin. So that's not too far off of where you would imagine that would be for anybody if they don't have their number one shutdown guy. So those numbers, they about line up. That's it's definitely not good having him not in there. But can we make the playoffs now? They'll still make the playoffs. I don't think that's going to be a problem. This will get sorted out, whatever it is, but there needs to be a sense of urgency to it. And like I've already said about the power play, there is absolutely nothing to lose by trying Nikishin on it now. Even if you need to have him on the second unit, even just do something different. You keep running it back with the same thing over and over and over and over. And it was the same thing last year. There was a point in time where Burns had a negative goal differential when he was quarterbacking the power play. How the hell does that even happen? Yeah, I'm not getting into all this. Delta says, Anderson sucks. Can we look at his save stats in the past few starts? They're not good. I'm not going to bother looking at them tonight, but they're not good. Because after I'm done with this, I'm just going to play NASCAR 25 for a couple hours. I'm going to sleep. I might stream it. I might not. I don't know. What's up, J-Dub? All I wanted was a two-seer goalie, and for the fourth year in a row, got neither. And just like Natchez and KK before him, they just slot in stank. This team is not serious when we all see the problem. Yep, Stankoven's been fine at center, but now it's kind of at a point where it's like, are we seeing all we're going to get from him at that position? Like, there was like a steady progress with him playing it, and then over the last 3 or 4 games, it seems like he's kind of hit a wall. So I don't know if there's still anything really to be done there. I would rather get another center and then have, depending on who gets moved out, I'd rather have him either back on the wing or centering Hall and Robinson or something like that. I don't know. That's for the front office to figure out. I can sit here and spitball ideas all day long, but making trades is probably harder than ever now with people locking players up and a lot of them getting, no trade, no movement clauses and all that type of stuff. And there's something needs to be done, but I can't really tell you what it is. But I know one thing though, it's only a matter of time before I go to war with the corporate media. It's coming. Because a lot of the corporate media unconditionally defends Rod and says that the power play is on the players. At this point, you can't say that anymore. There are 2 players that have been on the power play for the entirety of Rod's tenure, and that's Aho and Svechnikov. That's it. Well, you say they're not executing, but people have not been executing for years now. Times it'll go up, times it'll go down. I understand everything has ebbs and flows, peaks and troughs and all that. But this power play is completely flatlined right now. The fact that they scored a goal tonight doesn't change that, and it doesn't absolve how bad it's consistently been over the years. And this year, it's painful to watch. I laughed at the Bonnie and Clyde, and you're a fucking douchebag. Politics and election talk. What's up? Metro's close. Need more from your goalie. At least we aren't as bad as Edmonton when it comes to goaltending. Yeah. If Carolina had a Stuart Skinner type of goalie in net, they'd be really, really screwed. They would be incredibly screwed. It's not that bad for Carolina yet, but I like Freddie. I really do, but we also have to accept the fact he's 36 years old now, 35, something like that. goalies have a shelf life. They have a very limited window, and it takes a long time for you to realize what you have with them as far as what their ceiling is. There's exceptions to that occasionally. There's the occasional Henrik Lundqvist or Marc-Andre Fleury or Patrick Waugh or someone like that who you know is going to be good. And then they end up being good for a long time. And then they call it quits at the appropriate time. I mean, the exception there being Henrik Lundqvist, because his career was ended preemptively, unfortunately, by his heart condition. But yeah, the goaltending thing, I mean, even if Freddie rediscovers his form, you need more than one. But right now, I'm a little bit concerned about this team as a whole. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not. Sam, what's up, buddy? I don't know who we can get for goalie, though. I don't either. I've seen a lot of people say Saros lately. Don't even think about it. Not with that contract. Dude is signed until he's 38. Now, if it was 4 or 5 years, sure. But another thing we have to figure, goalies, when they get older, if they're on the smaller side, they start having a much harder time than someone who's on the bigger size because they don't have the size to make up for when they start losing their speed and they start slowing down. So I wouldn't touch that. Bennington's been talked about, but you kind of already have a Bennington archetype goaltender with Kochetkov, but he's also been out of the lineup a bunch lately, so now I'm like kind of concerned with him. People need to pump the brakes on Brandon Bussia a little bit. Yeah, he's been playing well for the most part, but is that what you're going to get out of him the entire time? Probably not. Will, what's up, dude? What's up, dude? Igor, 38 shots faced and led into. Yeah, this was one of those nights where Carolina had to dominate that game every single second to get everything they needed scoring-wise, and they didn't do it. And like I said in Landfall Hour, the Rangers didn't need a lot of time in your offensive zone to hurt you. They create opportunities deliberately. They open up the ice deliberately. They work to the interior with the time and space they create, and they generate quality shots. Like, they stuck to their formula, and it worked. Carolina did not stick to their formula, and they lost. Will Park says Anderson, 17 shots faced, let in 3. Yep, that's exactly what happened. It's not a coincidence that he holds 8 of the 9 losses. Yeah, that's not good. Stank isn't point as much as this team wants him to be. He's just not. Yeah, I know I was a big proponent of trying him at center just to see if you could have an in-house solution and not have to go out on the market and look. If you were to go get another center and move him to play with Hall and Robinson, for example, that could give him a little bit more time to develop that side of his game against matchups that aren't so tough. I know that a lot of people have talked about Ryan O'Reilly. With O'Reilly, I'm a little bit concerned about the speed factor. Yeah, he's got the defensive mindset that Brendan Moore would want. He's a good playmaker. He's got experience. I think he would be valuable in the playoffs. And for a stopgap type of solution, that wouldn't be a bad one. But he's just not very high on my list just from a speed standpoint alone. And that was one of the things somebody pointed out to me in regards to Mason McTavish when I thought maybe Carolina could go get him and that could be a good one. But DMD, what's up? Perhaps I missed this, but has anyone kept track of how often Aho has been thrown out of the dot this season? Is he hurting the refs' feelings or what? Aho gets thrown out multiple times a game. It's excessive. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I can safely say that's probably why he's having such a hard time in the dot. He's afraid to be aggressive, and he's getting thrown out because of it. So that's the whole thing about it. I think the reason Aho's lost so much confidence in the dot is he rolls up there, he gets thrown out, and the next time he goes up, he's like, I don't want to get thrown out again. So he's not as aggressive when he goes up to the faceoff circle after that. And then because like last year, I think he was 55.1 on the draw or something like that. And I don't even want to know what it is this year. I'm actually afraid. I'm going to look. I'm going to regret it, but I'm going to look. Stand by. Lord help me. I don't want to look at this when I'm going to. Okay. Well, So last year he was 55.3. He's not been sub 50 since 2019-20. And he's still sitting at 48 this year. So that's not terrible. Career 51.3. That's actually not that bad. And having a face-off percentage above 50 is not like so important nowadays. It's not 1996. It's not 2003. It's like those days are over. But he's definitely like lost his confidence in the circle, I think, because of how much he's getting booted. Igor post won tonight's game. Yeah, but I can't sit here and say Igor won it for him because like the whole getting goalied thing has been used as an excuse for the Hurricanes too much at this point. And at some point it's like it's not happenstance, it's science at this point. It's happened way too much. They need to change something. This is happening way too often. The team not being able to get around being goalied is what cost them a trip to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2023. Because Carolina should have obliterated Florida in that series, and the only reason they didn't was because of Bobrovsky. They should have won 4 games decisively, and they didn't because they couldn't solve Bobrovsky. That was it. You can say Kachuk this, Barkov that, but those games would have never been close enough for those guys to make a difference if Carolina was able to put a puck past Bob. Grayson says, hey, warning take, when do you see Slavin coming back at the earliest? Dude, I don't know. They've been very tight-lipped about that. They've been very, very tight-lipped about whatever is going on with him. Because it went from being, oh, it's not that bad, it's week to week, and the information on that has been basically stagnant ever since then. But him not being in the lineup for a long period of time, we're definitely feeling it. You know, the fans were definitely feeling it. The team's feeling it. I don't know. J-Dub says the one time I would love to see KK when Stahl is out and he's not available. Yeah, he's still hurt from where he blocked that shot, depending on how bad that swelled up on him and everything. All but 2 of Freddie starts. He's given up 3+ goals. Yeah, that's not good for the Canes because they tend to get it done with 3 tends to be their magic number. It's bad. It would be worse if he didn't get kicked out every time. Well, no, I think him getting kicked out is why. I think him getting kicked out is why he's like not doing well in the circle. He's going up there with the mentality of don't be aggressive, win the face off, or don't be aggressive. Therefore, he doesn't win the face-offs. And then when he's overly aggressive, he's getting thrown out. So it's like, I don't know. Could he be out for the season? No. I think that if that was the case, that would have been announced already. I don't think he's out for the season. Will Park says got goalie by the Rags in the second round, and the Kuzi Gensel era also played circles around them. Yeah. It was the same thing there. And then, like, the other thing, like, one of the biggest reasons why Carolina would normally win a series back then, I mean, still now, once they're back to their regular lineup and everything like that, then once they're back to their regular lineup, normally when that's the case, the penalty kill is really strong. And it dropped to 75% in that postseason, the 23-24 one that you're referring to. So that didn't help at all. But they also had a chance to win that series, or they also had 2 chances to even that series on the power play and overtime in game 2, and they didn't do it. That's another series that they lost basically by 1 goal in every game that they lost, because they lost game 1 by 1 goal. They lost game 2 in overtime. They lost game 3 in overtime. And if I remember correctly, that ended 1-0. And I kind of was worried about Kochekov after that. I think that I think that like kind of had an effect on his confidence he's never completely recovered from. And then there was game 4 where Carolina managed to keep that series going. Then they won game 5, and then in game 6 they lost by 1 goal and then an empty netter. So essentially in that era where Carolina was supposed to finally get to the Cup Finals, they lost 4 games in a row by 1 goal to Florida, lost 3 games in a row by 1 goal to the Rangers, and then they were too far behind to make up for it at that point. So, Billy, what's up, bud? If the Strangers can beat you, you're in trouble. Right now, yeah. Yeah, this isn't good. I'm not totally hitting the panic button yet, but I swear to holy Christ, they need to do something about the power play. Like I don't even. I get more excited to see Aho and Jarvis killing penalties than I ever get to see the power play, and that's not just because I'm a nerd for defensive situations. I mean, if any of y'all have ever watched like my live barn videos that I upload and everything like that, I love that. 1 second, please. So it's not just that; it's just this power play is like it just kills my momentum watching the game to even see them roll that out. But I'm tired of them rolling out the exact same units. It's like Rod used to mix the lines up 5-on-5 really easily. He stopped doing that so much now, which is a good thing because that gives them a chance to work through stuff. The penalty kill, you don't really need to change anything there, especially right now. You don't have all your regular personnel on it that you normally do. The power play, everybody who's normally on it is available, but it's not working. Change it up. Do something. Try Nikishin. Anything. Throw stuff at the wall until something sticks. But I'm not going to panic yet. It's only 2 losses in a row. They were both bad losses. Even, you can isolate it and just look at the game tonight. I'm not panicking yet, but I don't like it. Grayson says, I think the Canes will figure it out soon. They're going to have to, or they're going to be at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. One bad week and you're at the bottom of the standings right now. That's how tight they are. Will Park says, Game 6 put darkness in my soul. Yeah, I was there for that one too. I've only made it to 2. At that point, I'd only made it to 2 playoff games. Game 5, where Jesper Foss scored the overtime winner against New Jersey, and then that one. That's the only 2 playoff games I've been to at that point. And then last season, I managed to make it for Game 3 against Washington, which was fun because you guys know how much I just don't like the Caps from where I used to live up there. So Mr. I'm a Wizard says, I would put the Stank Blake Ehlers combo on the power play. Do anything at this point. Try anything. Like, hey, Frank, you want to go? You want to be on power play? You want a treat? If you go on power play, I'll give you a treat. No? You're just laying there enjoying yourself? Okay, buddy. Okay, Frank doesn't want to be on a power play. Oof, you got to see. Yeah, and I had a perfect view of it, too. Me and AB, that you guys know from over at Caniac Sessions, I think it's 115 we were sitting in because he had season tickets down there at that time. Yeah. I had a perfect view of that. I remember that game, how good I felt until the second intermission. Because I remember in second intermission, I went to the bathroom and I was sitting by the pillar waiting to go back down the stairs out of the bathroom. And I was standing there talking to this one Rangers fan because somebody was talking shit to him in the bathroom. And I had no idea why. He wasn't bothering anybody. He was a really cool guy. So him and I stood up there and, BS'd for a few minutes and, shook hands with him, told him have a good night and all that. And I went back downstairs. I go to sit and I look at AB and I'm like, we're going to be fine. And he's like, yeah, we're going to be fine. And we both said that in like a ominous type of way. And then we all know what happened in the third. So that's a game I do put some blame on Freddie for. Frank the Tank, what's up, buddy? Dropping by to show love. I appreciate it. Let's go Canes. Played better than what it looked like. If they had played the whole game like they did from the 15-minute mark in the third, they would have won. Power play has to get better. See, that's one thing I've been concerned with, and this has been a reoccurring theme lately. They're not playing full 60-minute efforts right now. The Vancouver game was like that. The Edmonton game was like that. The Colorado game was the epitome of like, fuck, you should not have won that game. Frank the Tank says Ghost looks better 5-on-5 than the power play. That's one of the things that lends to me that like the power play is not an execution or not a personnel issue, not an execution issue. It's It's a coaching issue. And especially when you compare how many chances they generate shorthanded versus how many they generate on the power play. Yeah, that's a coaching issue at that point. That's it. That's all there is to it. Elephant in the room being addressed. It's something is being done wrong with the coaching as far as the power play is concerned. Straight up says 4 points from the bottom of the Metro. Can we get our people back now? Yeah, it's tight, dude. It is really. Happy Thanksgiving, Caniacs. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, guys. I really feel like top line showed up mostly today, but everything else was pretty much mad terrible. Yeah, I don't think anybody was particularly good tonight. Like, there were guys who were all right. Like I said, I thought Miller was fine. I thought Nikishin was fine. Aho was fine. Jarvis was pretty good. The bottom six did not impress me tonight at all, but they had a lot of irregularities in the lineup because Jordo wasn't there where he normally is, and Jankowski was in that spot. Robidaw was centering Hall and Robinson. So, like, I don't put too much stock into them, but they I don't think they were great tonight. The defense was, as a whole, the defense was mid as fuck. The goaltending, I just, you needed one or two timely saves from Freddie, and this is a completely different game. And it's not like he faced a ton of shots. He only faced 17 shots, I believe. So Will says they look timid, almost scared on the power play. Yeah, there's something. The power play needs a major shakeup to start. Like, do personnel changes. Maybe stop using the umbrella so much. Maybe try. I mean, this is a team that's all about forechecking, and retaining the offensive zone and being aggressive. Well, try overload instead. Like something. Anything. Oh, God, here we go. They just let the 6-7 wall stand right in front of Fred. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to play some NASCAR 25. I'll probably stream that over on X if you wish to join me over there. I don't know yet. Part of me just wants to go sit on my beanbag and watch some TV and relax for the rest of the night. I don't know. But either way, I'll answer this last comment here, and then I'm going to call it a night. The D-zone stuff getting extremely irritating. Yeah, I've not been impressed with that at all lately. That's very uncharacteristic. But I'll give them a pass on that for tonight just because you didn't have Jordo and you didn't have Slavin. And, KK's more valuable in the defensive zone. People want to give him credit for. But, people think having him out of the lineup, the team is actually better without him. And, I hope the last few games have showed everybody, no, it's not. All right. Good night, you guys. Happy Thanksgiving. I will see y'all over on X if I decide to stream NASCAR 25 tonight.